to see you again.
Thank you, Myrna. I'm super happy to be here. I'm excited about having this very important conversation with you.
Yes, I do think it's very important, and it's a little bit tricky on YouTube. We talked about how we can stay in the lanes for the overlords that run the algorithm, whatever all
Mm,
that is. But
mm.
Xanet Pailet, it's just exciting to be able to talk to you about something that doesn't get a lot of sort of podcast conversations. Unfortunately, we get a lot of headline news. The so and so cheated on so, and their marriage is in trouble, and when the wife found out or when the husband found out. So it's all the drama and gossip part of
Mhm.
somebody's intimate life. But as a certified sex and intimacy coach and educator, you work to prevent those disasters from happening. Before the house burns down, let's put out the fire. Let's see if we can handle what's going on. And somebody's needs aren't being met. We don't know what's going on, but maybe try to do it in a way that is honorable for your partner. And if that doesn't work, then maybe other avenues have to be pursued. But try to fix it first, maybe.
Yeah.
15 years you've been doing this,
Mm.
and I won't hold against you that you have a past as a lawyer in healthcare. We all come from somewhere,
Yeah.
Jenny. We all come from somewhere. But instead of being a big executive in New York, you're now doing this education in Asheville, North Carolina.
Yes,
So,
yes.
except for the spring fever of pollen, it's a pretty good place to live.
It's a beautiful place to live.
Yeah,
Very blessed to be here.
yeah, lots of history. It is a popular destination.
Mhm.
And for some people who are trying to reconnect their intimate life with their partner, it's a destination to come see you. You meet people in person.
Yes, my work is very interactive and immersive, and I do my coaching as a retreat
Mhm.
specifically most of the time, where we actually take a really deep dive over a 4 to 5 day period of time.
When you think about couples, I love that approach, and apparently it's worked for 15 years. But we don't have time. We're on the go so much. We have other
Mhm.
people and responsibilities in our life. A getaway weekend could be hard to come around with, which is
Mm.
really like getting somewhere Friday night, having all day Saturday, breakfast Sunday morning, getting home Sunday afternoon. A getaway weekend is like a day and a half basically shoved
Mm.
together,
Mm.
and you have the coming and the going. So having a few days where this is the center core of what's happening in a beautiful place like Asheville, a chance to intimately reconnect with a partner. And as a coach, as a human who's been alive and has friends, you hear all kinds of stories about where did it break down? How come you don't talk to each other? Or you got through the IPO, or you got through the death of your father, or the kids are finally off to college. There's a lot of cooperative work that happens in a partnership. And if we have time, we'll get busy in the bedroom if I'm not too tired and you're not asleep already. So it's left to the end of a day, of a week, of a month. And it's no wonder that intimacy can erode.
Yeah.
So share with me a little bit in your 15 years of experience. When you first talk with someone, what are the kinds of things they say? I want my audience to be able to understand, oh, this is a Janae thing. We should probably call her. Or, oh, we could try having a couple of honest conversations and see where we are. What is your recommendation when you first talk with people?
So when I first talk with people, the question that I always ask first is, what's working in your relationship? I always like to start from the tell me about the good stuff,
The
right? Because
positive stuff.
yeah, we're so focused on the bad things. And then my next question is, what could be better?
Sure. Needs
And
improvement. In the needs improvement category, we
needs
find.
improvement. So it tends to break down, not 100%, but it tends to break down along these lines. A lot of times I hear, we're coming to a sex coach because we don't have a sex life, or we're having challenges with our sex life, right? Because otherwise you might pick a marriage and family therapist. But what underneath all of that, what I often hear is, okay, like, how emotionally connected are you feeling in this relationship? How safe are you feeling? Do you feel like you can actually express your feelings to your partner and not be afraid that your feelings are going to be unvalidated or it's going to create a conflict? And 9 times out of 10, that is the major symptom, if you will, the major problem
The
is
communication is the first thread to pull.
the
You know that.
right, the communication is the first thread to pull. The not having the emotional safety in the relationship that they probably had a little of in the beginning, but they've not really focused on each other, have let other things get in the way. Oh, very often, if you probe just a little bit deeper, you find out there's a lot of things that I'm pissed at my partner about that we've never actually resolved. Maybe something that happened 10 or 20 years ago.
Sure.
And
Unresolved conflict, and then your bedroom becomes a battlefield instead of a
absolutely.
place of relaxation, restoration, intimacy. And if they don't have the skills to resolve those things, that's where you have to start. You have to clear the decks
Yes.
a little bit and say,
Yes.
we're going to put some things aside, and people are going to say their piece. And then when you leave Nashville, you're leaving that stuff here. You can't take it home with you.
That is certainly the hope. Um, but yes, and of course, anybody who comes to see me and sets up a screening call, because I always like to meet everybody before they come and spend 5 days with me. They're couples that want to do the work, like they want to fix it, right? And generally speaking, they still like each other. If I have a couple where there's just like high levels of distress, and it's already a toxic situation, it's not going to be a very
Might
positive
be too far
experience.
gone.
Far
Yeah, I
gone.
think
Yeah.
that's so good that you take the temperature
Yeah.
before they come out. And I think that's really helpful. We were talking before we hit play about people, not only do they maybe not have the time to invest in a relationship, over the years, they've had other things to spend money on. Their resources go to the new tires. They go to get the kid off to college.
Yeah.
They go to, if you have someone with a pet that's gotten sick, you can get a $2,000 bill from the veterinarian, for heaven's sakes. And things are expensive.
Yeah.
And just living your daily life can do the Pac-Man biting of whatever resources you have. So prioritizing, what is a divorce going to cost us?
That's what I always say to them. But you might
Okay.
be like having issues around what my fee is. But
Well,
what would you be paying a divorce attorney right now? Like
and
tens of thousands of dollars.
I also think a stitch in time saves nine, as they say. And you can only put so many coats of paint over a wooden table before you have to strip the thing and then start fresh. It just compiles, and then you have other problems. So I think years together married, things compile. You don't pay attention to that now because there's something on fire over here. And then maybe you don't circle back to solve it. You keep going, but they can accrue over time in kind of a negative balance sheet
I
that
mean,
might
they
outweigh the
do.
positive. Yeah.
Yeah, I like to say it's a little scratch on your finger because your partner said something that hurt you, right? And then it never gets repaired.
Mhm.
And then it starts getting bigger and bigger. And this little scratch on the finger that you could cover with a band-aid, all of a sudden it's a festering wound. And it really needs like significant attention and care. And that's what I see happening in a lot of relationships. We don't take care of the little things because we don't have the skills to do that. We were never taught how to do that, how to really communicate around your feelings and being really vulnerable with each other, which creates that emotional safety. And then 30 years, 25 years later, you like look at this person and you're like, things aren't feeling good. And when I'm not feeling emotionally connected to my partner, then my nervous system shuts down and I don't want to have any intimate connection with them either.
I do think that's the key component of how healthy a marriage is whether that connecting is happening
Mhm.
on a regular basis. And I know just from coaching and living life that men and women approach sex differently. Their
Mhm.
emotional needs are cared for differently. The priority to care for an emotional need is different between partners. And it can be very simple things like you never initiate. And it's, I didn't know you wanted me to do that. Oh, okay. This is how we don't talk about things. So share
Exactly.
share with me what it's like when you identify someone and you say you guys should come out and see me in Asheville. What are those next steps? Because I'm sure people are imagining all kinds of things, but share
Yeah.
with me what the process is. They're willing to work on it, and they
Mhm.
can invest in the opportunity. They feel like we got to give it the old college try. I think whatever's not working, we haven't solved it on our own. We both like it to be solved. So we're going to take a chance on Janae and come out there and see her. Take me from that point forward. What is their experience like coming out to see you?
First, I just want to say that it's not that they just haven't tried it on their own. They've tried it with therapists usually,
Okay.
and they haven't made the progress that they want to make. And that's a very key component, right? Because almost all of the couples I see have seen a therapist and they're still not where they actually want to be. For me, the most important thing, and the way I always start with couples, is starting to help them reconnect on an emotional level through having some exercises and practices and experience that are very gentle and soft, but
Mhm.
also very powerful.
Mhm.
And I think people forget like what it's like just to sit and look at your partner and think about what's it like to be in that person's shoes. I've lived with them for 25 years. What is it really like to feel them, like all of their stresses, the things that they're scared about,
Mhm.
what they're most passionate about, and to exchange that information usually, and I say usually because sometimes that's a pain point, right? Is, oh man, you don't know who I am at all. And then I'm like, okay, that's a
Mhm.
lot of information. But generally speaking, it starts to open people up, right? Because what we're getting is we're being seen. And that's what we want,
I
right?
think even more than being seen, and I'm sure this happens in your sessions, they're being valued.
And
Not
valued,
only
right?
did I see you, you matter to me even more now that I've seen this, like really matter to me, and I can tell. I think today in our culture, there's a war of the sexes going on, and the whole thing is broken down. It's become transactional, and it unfortunately, and I think we can focus a little bit this on Instagram models or whatever the social media impact is, but what am I getting from this man? And I'm racking up, here's what my benefits are, and that list isn't long enough. I need a sugar daddy, or I need two sugar daddies, or I need, my list isn't long enough. I'm valuing my worth on what they invest in me. And I have no conversation about what they need. So in a relationship, it's a two-way street. If it's
Totally,
transactional, it's a one-way street. I paid my bill and I'll have my services
totally.
now. Thank you. But in a relationship, it's a two-way street. Sit and say, what is he not getting from you? What is
Yeah.
he asked for and needs, but you are not providing instead of what am I getting? And I think swapping those hats, as you described, can be very eye-opening because habits accrue over time and you don't think about it anymore.
Right. No, absolutely. And I start to create help helping their nervous systems learn how to attune to each other because a lot of times, almost always, when couples are not on the same page length around sex or intimacy, it means that they're like two different nervous systems that are in different places. And just that sense of, can our nervous system start to attune? Can we take some breaths together? Can we do a melting hug and
Mhm.
stay there for 3 minutes? That also starts to create that connection and that safety that they've been really sorely missing for many, probably decades, for a
Well,
lot of the couples I work with.
I think there's sometimes access to grind about who's right about this or wrong about that. Sometimes there has been infidelity.
Yes.
And so, how to do the repair work of that so the broken place is stronger? How to do that repair. I'm still willing to invest in you. You're still my person. I want to give this a shot. And if this doesn't work, then we know we don't
Mhm.
work anymore. That can happen. When we were talking earlier, we talked about how bodies change over time. People put on weight, people go through chemo, people have surgeries, people go through menopause, men get low T. It's like there's a sequence of things that can happen, and they do happen like erosion. Usually it's not something dramatic like my prostate's been removed, or they cut my breasts off and I have to sew new ones on, or, I mean, like dramatic cancer
Mhm.
interventions. But little things like you have less testosterone or you're in perimenopause and that's why you wake up in the sweats. Your partner doesn't smell good to you anymore. He hasn't changed anything. It's the same soap, it's the same shampoo, but you are experiencing like a chemical experience that's different for you. And that can go on for 5 to 7 years. And everyone's supposed to just put up with it. And so bioidentical hormones are a lot of things that are available, but change happens. We know in coaching, cooperating with change, whether it's voluntary or involuntary, is one of the keys to be more at peace, to be less stressful.
Yeah, and I think that that's just a normal part of aging. And of course I see that I see it show up in myself as well. And really just from a personal perspective, learning to accept that is a part of our body. Things are going to happen. Certain body parts aren't going to work as well. All of that is actually true. And right, that doesn't mean that you don't have to stop connecting with your partner on a physical level. You just have to perhaps start changing the way in which that physical interaction actually happens, right? And it's all about like communicating, like really, if you're a man and your partner is going through menopause, really asking questions like, what would feel good for you? What's challenging for you right now? How can I help support you around this? I think so many women feel so unsupported around menopause, and men are just like, they're floored. I don't know what to do. There's a whole different person in the house. And so like feeling like you're there to support each other and vice versa is really critically important as we age and absolutely as bodies change. And also remembering, I often take women through this beautiful meditation of remembering that your body is your best friend. Like it is an amazing vehicle for many women. It's birthed children. Our bones have healed after being broken, like all of the ways in which our body really supports us, so we can really shift the mindset about being mad at our bodies because all of a sudden things
We're
are
not 30
drooping.
anymore. Yeah.
Exactly.
Take me through the landscape, if the blast radius is their week with you. And then we have these knock-on effects through the landscape of their lives for years to come. Take me through what you hear back from clients you've worked with about how their reconnection continues to grow stronger, or they find new ways to communicate. Because this isn't, though your session is one and done over 5 days, the effects are long lasting.
Very long lasting. I really have a very strong success rate, long-term success rate with clients, I think because they go through a very immersive experience. An example that I can give is, this is actually a client who is on the younger scale who I see. So they were in their late 30s. And I saw them a couple of years ago, 2 or 3 years ago. And an adorable little couple, but they were really struggling around, by and large, first communication, like just each feeling like they could learn how to navigate, how to live with each other because they were relatively new, and how to take responsibility. The woman in particular was like, as many women are, I'll just take care of everything. And then all of this resentment started building up because her partner wasn't doing anything. And he was just like, she's already taking care of everything. So I don't
Stay
have
out
to.
of her way. Yeah,
I'm going to
this is
stay
my
out of
plan.
her. This is my plan. I'm going to stay out of her way. But she was pissed about it. And because of that, she didn't want to have intimacy, which is what happens, right? When you have that anger and resentment built up, like I said, your nervous system shuts down. Nobody wants to have sex with somebody who they're pissed off at. And so it's interesting. We always work on the intimacy piece, but we spent a lot of time. I spent a lot of time with that couple, really helping them and helping her in particular understand how her patterns and her wounds were actually having an impact on this relationship. And they came to I do a group retreat once a year, and they came to my Costa Rica retreat this year in February. They were like a completely different couple. And they said in the group, we worked with Xanet 3 years ago, and things immediately like changed. Like all of a sudden, my husband started actually showing up and being responsible and taking care of things. And I had a lot less stress in my life. And it provided a lot more space for us to actually be able to have sex and be intimate with each other. So there's just an example of something where because it's not just skill learning that we work on. I also do very deep work with understanding their patterns, which often emanate from childhood, and really getting a sense of that and how they impact each other. That's where, in this case, and very often, that's where the change actually happened at a very deep level for that couple. And that's not at all uncommon for those type of experiences, for this to be pretty long lasting, because people really understand what's happening and really see their behavior. Because I'm not a therapist, I don't like dance around, right? I'm a coach. I'm like, let me tell you what's actually
That's
happening
right. We're going
here.
to produce some results together. Roll up your sleeves.
Exactly,
Yeah.
exactly, right.
Yeah. I think having morning coffee with someone you reconnected with and care about is a different experience of morning coffee. It's not just in the bedroom. It's not just in
Totally.
actual intimacy. Now caring about anniversaries or caring about the time you spend together, that it be time well spent. And to be able to say, I've been on my feet 12 hours today. I just need to sleep. And it's not a secret hidden message that I'm mad at you about something. It's the fact that I've been on my feet 12 hours and I need to sleep.
Right.
That's okay. And then I'll make it up to you tomorrow or whatever. But there's a cooperation that I think is one of the first things that break down and that you have to restore.
Yeah, absolutely. Because I think it's like we can't see the forest through the trees, right? When we're in it ourselves. I know this in my own relationship, right? We have a coach that we work with. Like you can't see your own, very often it's very hard to see your own patterns. And even if
Yeah.
you see it, you're so triggered
Mhm.
that you can't actually repair at times without really having somebody help support that as well. And so yes, I think that's a big part of the work that we do over in my on my weekend, which really aren't weekend retreats. They're more like from Friday to Monday, or Friday to Tuesday if it's a
Mhm.
couple that's really needs a lot more work on the emotional side.
I think one of the jobs you probably do is you carve other people out of the marriage. They talk to their guy pals or their gal pals, and he should be doing this or she should
Mm,
be doing that,
mm,
or I don't have to put up with that. I don't know why you're putting up with it. And
mm,
so if it's not the parents in your ears, it's your friend group or something saying,
mm,
this is how it should be.
mm,
And sometimes I think you have to just shut those other influences off
mhm.
and say, actually, I'm going to talk with him about what he wants, and he's going to talk with me about what I want. Or we're going to turn off the chorus that tells us we're doing it wrong.
Yeah, yeah.
So
That's
I
a
think you have to
point.
refocus too. There's only two people in this relationship.
Yes. Yeah.
They live here.
Yes.
Turn off the rest of
Yes.
it for a little while.
Yes, there very often are three or four other people that have wedged their way into a relationship. And again, that happens, I think, because the couple themselves don't feel emotionally safe having the conversation of asking for what they want and telling them what
Right.
they need, telling them like what you said hurt me, and knowing that you can say that and that you're not going to end up in a big conflict, right? That you
Right.
can actually learn how to repair that in a way that creates more intimacy and more safety and closeness, rather than it creating more conflict, which is what most people, which is what typically happens.
Well, I think it's wonderful to give people a way to speak about what's happened and how they reacted to it without putting somebody in the penalty box, without
Mm,
getting even. Unfortunately, you hear the phrases from your parents. My mother used to say, don't get mad, get even. And
mm,
even when she'd say that, I think, I don't want to live like that where I'm getting even. I think that makes me the villain. Doesn't that make me the villain? I'm the
mm,
one I don't want to live like that. But
yeah.
you bide your time and then do something to get even. But we hear these messages from childhood, right? Different
Mm,
generation of people. And then God help us, the messages we've passed on to our children. We'll just ask for a blanket apology for whatever messages we passed on. But we all do the best we can. And so I wanted to ask the question about the books you've published, the
mm,
ways people find you, and how to have that screening call to see if this might be a fit for a couple who may have tried therapy or may have tried other things and they're still at a place that's not 100%. You give people permission to thrive in intimacy,
mm,
to thrive in connected communication. And people put that off to the side. That'd be a nice to have, not a have to have. Over time, it's actually a have to have.
Oh, totally
Have
have.
to have. So tell us about your book and how your two books and how to get a hold
Yeah.
of you.
So my new book is called The Sex and Intimacy Repair Kit. How to en-
Nice.
yeah, how to enhance communication and create a lifetime of passionate intimacy. And that book is geared towards couples. And it really encapsulates all of the work that I do with couples and I've been doing for the last 10 years around emotional intimacy and emotional connection with lots of steps and tools that they can use. And I also weave my own story in there as well.
Bringing that book into the household might be the conversation piece
Yeah.
about maybe we should consider something like this.
Yeah.
This is identified here, that kind of sounds like us, and this is identified here, and that kind of sounds like us, and
Yes.
maybe there's light at the end of the tunnel.
For sure. And I think what's interesting about this book is the format of it is I drop people into a coaching session so they get to have a sneak peek
Oh,
of what it would look like to be
yes,
in a coaching session through the eyes of a couple that I'm working with.
that's wonderful. Yeah.
Yeah, it's a cool format. And then my other book, which is really more geared towards women, although a lot of men read it, is called Living an Orgasmic Life, Heal Yourself and Awaken Your Pleasure. And that book is really about my own personal story of sexual awakening, and my own journey, but also really focuses on what are the blocks for women and men
Mhm.
around being able to connect with your sexuality, and then what are the ways to be able to safely be able to continue to do that, to start the connection piece internally
I
with
think
yourself.
with the porn being an addiction in our culture right now, with infidelity, and maybe there's not as much as we think because we hear about it all the time, or more than we think because now we're hearing about it all the time. But there, people shut down in
Mhm.
terms of intimacy. They kind of hunker down and batten the hatches and try to get through the storm of something that's not working. But
Mhm.
there's no restoration possible. You've just shut off. There's no healing possible if you've just shut off.
Yeah.
So, do you notice courage that people say, we're going to handle this? Let's take a shot. It would have to take great personal courage. They're not just revealing it to a partner, they're revealing it to a coach and educator.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
they open the trench coat and say, let's make this better. I want it to be better.
Yes, it takes it definitely takes courage. And most people, almost always, will say to me, because they can't, people don't really understand what they're getting themselves into. Like they don't, most people
Those
don't
last
understand.
3 times I saw an intimacy coach, oh,
Exactly. They have no idea. And a lot of people don't really understand what immersive and experiential somatic work is actually, right? So almost always everybody says to me, like, I'm really nervous, I'm scared. I don't really know what to expect. And I'm
client.
like, totally normal. Like, I totally understand that I could explain from here to tomorrow, and you're really going to have more of a sense of experiencing what it's actually like. So I think that's a very normal reaction that people have. And then, yes, like the vulnerability of opening their relationship, opening up your relationship to
Mhm,
somebody who you just met, who you
mhm.
don't know. But I think I do an incredibly good job of creating a very safe container for people with a ton of permission and a ton of compassion. And I have my own story that people relate to. I was in a sexless marriage for 26 years. So it's not like they're seeing a 25-year-old, they're seeing
Of course,
in a
somebody fresh off the boat. Well,
exactly.
I have this question in my mind that I think viewers may be asking. And I hear this feedback as a coach for people who say we saw a therapist and the therapist took her side and just said I was wrong and
Mhm.
stupid. And so I don't need another dose of that.
Yeah.
And I don't want to be persecuted by a professional because I did it wrong or I'm inattentive or it's all my fault. And I don't want my partner validated. See, I told you it was all your fault. So we don't
Mhm.
get anywhere like that. Can you
Right.
share that there's no judgment, there's no
Yes.
judge going bang with the hand saying,
Yes.
it's you. It's
No,
now
I
broken. It took both of you to break it, both of you to fix
totally.
it.
Totally. I always tell people some of my agreements is that we're in a totally no judgment, a judgment-free zone here, and everything is welcome. But I think that I do a really good job of, I'd say, being neutral between the two partners, but also being like a truth teller
Yes.
as well. But I never side with one person over the other. Even in an example of a couple that came to me where there was a betrayal, there was an affair, a very deep emotional affair he was still grieving about, which actually had to be brought into the room. And I also needed to look at both of them and say, she obviously was furious, right? But there's a lot going on, and say to both of them, what brought you to this point? Because
Why
generally,
are we talking today? Why
right,
now?
why did he have the affair in the first place? He had the affair in the first place because they were both feeling really lonely in the relationship.
Yeah.
But nobody had the skills to be able to talk about it or to be able to address it. So I really try to help everybody understand we all have a role when there's an issue in a marriage. We all have played a role in that without any blame or any shame. It's just the reality.
I have a quick question for you. I'm remembering this Instagram image from a few years ago. A famous actor whose name I forget, married to a famous actress whose name I forget, and she was vegan. And so, in order to date her, he pretended to be vegan, like this was a qualifier. And then there's somebody, a fan, took a photo and he's eating a giant hamburger somewhere. He's out of town and he's sneaking the hamburger. And so it's, you're not really vegan. And he's, no, I'm not. But I think they're not together anymore. I don't think it was the hamburger. But when you're not honest with a partner, now we create knock-on effects of that.
Totally.
And I think sometimes, for instance, people will say to me, executive business coach, trying to get ahead at work, I want the next promotion. I don't know why I'm being passed over, that kind of thing. We may arrive at, you don't belong in that workplace anymore. Like you're loyal to it, they are not loyal to you. And so you have the penny drop of they're not going to promote you. If that's important, you have to move on. Or you can stay where you are. But now you have reality adjusted so that you can see where things really are. So
Yes.
this fellow was going to eat the occasional hamburger while on the road and eat vegan at home because it made her happy, but not tell the truth about it. And
Yeah.
so sometimes just getting reality dialed in,
Yep.
it could be they don't want the same things anymore. And that's the bottom line. But now they have clarity and they've let go of the anger and the resentment and whose fault it is and the judgment. Wait, we have accurately diagnosed we don't belong together anymore. But we
This
can let
happens.
go of the accusations and the regret. So sometimes the answer is this doesn't work anymore,
Yeah.
but we can let go of the negative, angry impact of that and just come to terms with a reality reset.
Yeah, no, definitely. And I view that as success as well, right?
Yeah,
Because you've
yeah.
got two people who just
They're
are go
stuck trying to
are
make something work.
stuck trying to make something work that, it's just it has happened. It doesn't happen that frequently, but I would say maybe 10% of the
Mhm.
clients I've seen at the end of the day, maybe not at the retreat itself, every once in a while at the retreat itself, but 3 months later, it's, yeah, we decided the best thing was to separate, and better to figure that out than to, this is what I tell couples, and I know this because I've been here, there's no place lonelier, there can be no place lonelier than in a marriage where there's no love and no connection. It's a
Right.
very
It's a
extraordinarily
kind of
lonely place to
sentence.
be.
It's something like you can't get paroled from. Like you
Right.
can't finish serving your time
You cannot.
where you're not valued and loved and appreciated, where you don't have affection in your day. And yeah, so I think sometimes we'll get to the answer. It's likely the answer is you guys reconnect, but sometimes the answer is you guys really are done, but nobody has to feel bad about it.
Exactly.
You literally want different things. And so now both of you have that clarity to go get what you want without the animosity and the judgment and so on. I think having that kind of answer is a freedom. It's your
Mhm.
parole.
I like that. I like that analogy, Myrna.
Yes, I'm now free to pursue this thing I want, and I don't have to demand it from someone who it's not a fit for. Yeah.
Absolutely. Yeah.
Okay, so how do people get a hold of you? And we'll include the links to your book so people
Mhm.
can explore that too.
Yeah. So to get a hold of me, to book a call with me, to find out about my retreats, my books, my programs, you're going to go to my website,
Mhm.
which is Passionate Intimacy Retreats with an S.com, passionateintimacyretreats.com. And you'll find information about my books as well up there.
Excellent. I think for people who say we've tried everything, and I think we're worth this time and resource investment, and let's give this a go. It's wonderful to know the adult kids, the grandkids, the neighbors, the extended family, the coworkers notice a happier person that
Yeah.
they're interacting with. And those communication skills help you with the FedEx guy, help you with the neighbor who borrowed the lawnmower and won't give it back. It helps you across the landscape of your life, not just with your partner. So the lessons that you share are things they can use for the rest of their life. And
Yeah.
how impactful can you be? That is fantastic.
Mhm.
Thank you for joining me today. Okay, we'll have all of the details in the show notes. Everybody, check out her website, see if this is a fit for you. Or you may know someone and you say, I'm tired hearing you complaining about your spouse. I'm going to text this website to you. And maybe you guys can just solve this once and for all. So that would be good advice.
Excellent advice.
Very good to meet you. Thank you so much, Shanae. Okay, everybody,
Thanks.
we'll
Thanks,
see you
Janet.
all next time.